You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Andrea Lutz. Ahead tonight, new details as lawmakers tackle a massive budget bill in the legislature. But Governor Bullock says not so fast. We'll explain why. Plus, Bobcat fans reacting tonight as Montana State announces a new men's basketball coach. A look at Danny Sprinkle's tie to Bobcat athletics. But first tonight, the man accused in a 2005 plot to kidnap David Letterman's son has been arrested again in Helena. Kelly Frank was booked into the Lewis and Clark County Jail facing assault charges. Frank cited for an incident on March 23rd. Helena police say Frank is accused of following a man and threatening to kill him. The 2005 kidnap-related charges were ultimately dismissed, but Frank was sentenced to 10 years in prison for fraud related to working on Letterman's ranch. He escaped from the state prison in 2007 and was recaptured just 6 days later. He is currently under Department of Corrections supervision until 2025. Tonight, there's new information surrounding a suspect with alleged ties to ISIS taken into custody in Bozeman. 21-year-old Fabjan Alamedi appeared in court in Missoula today. He was traveling to Montana by bus from New York while being watched by federal authorities. He stopped in Billings to buy an air pistol, then Bozeman to buy another air gun. And authorities say that he was arrested at a Bozeman shooting range for possessing a gun while being a user of pot. Earlier this year, an informant said Alamadi wanted to go to Syria to fight for ISIS, even considering attacks on the United States. Alamedi has no known ties to Montana or the Bozeman Muslim community. A Bozeman man faces up to 25 years in prison after police say he assaulted his girlfriend. Prosecutors say Corey Murphy punched the victim several times in the face, leaving her unconscious. A neighbor called 911 after hearing the woman's screams. Police forced their way inside, found the woman with fresh injuries and swelling on her face. Murphy denies the allegations, saying the couple fights, but it doesn't get physical. His bail is set at $10,000. Cases just like this one prompted Gallatin County to start a community conversation about domestic violence. MTN's Cody Boyer tells us the mission behind the idea.
Gallatin County Deputy Coulter Metcalf's idea started with a very simple yet disturbing stat. No matter where he has patrolled, there have been many cases of domestic abuse seen. So he hopes that his message this weekend will hit home for many.
Whether you realize it or not, you have been affected by domestic violence. It affects everybody.
They are crimes that often remain silent, but cause limitless damage to those involved. Deputy Metcalf knows this well.
You know somebody, whether you realize it or not, that has been a victim of domestic violence. It's everywhere. It's in every community. This is the 4th law enforcement agency that I've worked for in different communities. It's in every single community.
Metcalf says that's what this conversation will be for, fighting the issue by spreading the word.
It can happen anywhere, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. It can happen in any home. It can even happen in the parking lot. And unless you're tuned into what's happening and paying attention and have your eyes open around you, you might miss it.
He says vigilance in knowing who and when to call are key. It may have made a difference Wednesday night.
Without working together with the public, that neighbor did the right thing by calling in and letting law enforcement know. We might never get that opportunity unless you, the public, tell us about it.
The deputy will have help from Haven and others this weekend. An effective solution, he hopes, to an often silent problem.
It's a multifaceted problem, so it deserves a multifaceted solution.
Again, and importantly, Deputy Metcalf's presentation will begin at 6 p.m. here at the River Rock Community Center in Belgrade, and it is free of charge. For MTN News, I'm Cody Boyer.
And a Billings doctor stirring up conversation about mental health and trauma treatment in Montana. Dr. Eric Arzubi spoke in Great Falls, and he says there's not enough health care providers to handle mental health. Every day, Montana emergency rooms are filled with mental health wounds. Many of those people exposed to traumatic experiences with no resources for how to cope.
There are about 13 to 15 people that come to our emergency room every single day in a psychiatric crisis. 13 to 15 people every single day. The more we can start talking early about what exposure to abuse and neglect does to people, not only sort of from a mental health perspective, but also from a physical health perspective, I think the better.
Well, all of this is a part of No More Violence Week. There are several seminars that are taking place in Great Falls, all of them focused on mental health. A massive budget bill is sailing through the legislature at a record pace after winning a full endorsement by the Senate. The Senate advances the $10 billion budget bill for 2 years, but there was some lengthy debate over reimbursement rates for assisted living homes. Meanwhile, Democrats and Governor Steve Bullock say the debate, it's far from over.
I think that the game's over if House Bill 2 gets to my desk. No, the legislature still has a heck of a lot of work to do because we've got to pay for the government that people expect.
And tomorrow, Senate committee will also take up Medicaid expansion, another big one, and those infrastructure bills. A lot still ahead at the legislature. Less birds on Freezeout Lake this year due to the weather. That, of course, means less bird watchers. Every year at Freezeout Lake between Choteau and Fairfield, thousands of birds land as they migrate north. The annual event grabs the attention of thousands of people, but the water on the lake is still frozen, and that's causing some problems for landing. And less watchers mean problems for local business owners.
Over like 30 rooms per night, 30 to 40 rooms per night uptick reserved for the event. And then when the weather did not cooperate, we had a lot of cancellations. I would say probably 20% of cancellations.
While migration season is winding down, some birds may still land as the temperature begins to heat up, so you still have maybe some time to check out Freezeout Lake. New research says there's a high number of grizzly mortalities across the Yellowstone ecosystem, something that could impact hunting. The Yellowstone Grizzly Bear Coordinating Committee meeting all this week in Bozeman. This meeting in response to a 2009 report on grizzly habitat. The numbers lessen the chance of a possible grizzly hunting season in the future. And another challenge, of course, bear and human and livestock conflicts. All of that is on the rise. And of course, that group's next meeting, it is now set for this coming October. That's when they're going to meet. It's going to be in Cody, Wyoming. And some big news coming out of Bobcat Athletics as MSU names Danny Sprinkle as the new men's head basketball coach. Bobcat fans are familiar with Sprinkle. He's a former Helena High and MSU standout. Sprinkle replaces Brian Fish, whose contract wasn't renewed. It expires in late June. Sprinkle is scheduled to meet with the public tomorrow, in fact, on campus. It's going to be at 3 o'clock in Inspiration Hall. A longtime Missoula district judge is handing in her gavel after serving nearly a decade on the bench. Judge Karen Townsend says it's time for a new adventure. She's announced she is retiring. Townsend was the first woman ever elected to be a district court judge in Missoula County. She plans to move to Colorado to be closer to her son. Great Falls is feeling a little safer tonight as the city welcomes 5 new police officers. The officers sworn in today before a judge and their family. They come from all walks of life. One is from Great Falls, another is a Miles City native, and others are former military. One officer will now start field training. The others go to the Montana Law Enforcement Academy in Helena. Details tonight on a move by the city of Great Falls to hand over management of their golf courses. It's just in time for the spring golf season. You may remember back in December, city commissioners approved a 3-year management agreement with Coursco. Coursco says that they're going to make the courses more profitable and reduce debt to the general fund. The good news is there's no pricing changes this year.
The community will find a golf course that has a better culture and has a better business procedures so that everybody will understand what's happening and why.
Eagle Falls and Anaconda Hills are set to open sometime after April 13th. The Bozeman Airport is working out some details for private flying, adding 9 new hangars this summer. Bozeman Airport shattering records, of course, with their commercial and airline travel numbers. But now the airport is focusing on private flights. And they say land for the hangars is leased by the airport, funded privately by organizations like the Yellowstone Club. But officials say that the news is pretty good for everyone.
Once we added our additional runway we were able to separate the slow-moving aircraft and the fast-moving aircraft to the 2 runways, we've seen a significant increase in small aircraft traffic, especially related to the flight schools here at the airport.
Airport Director Brian Springer says the hangars will be completed this year. Others on that property probably under construction by about 2020. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news, a huge boon to jobs coming to the mining city. We're going to give you all the details if you're looking for one coming up. And Bob McGuire, he delivers your statewide weather forecast on this Thursday night. All of that coming up right after the break.